Hey guys, welcome back to CLATapult's video series. My name is Akshat Goyal and today we'll be decoding the upcoming SLAT interview or PI process that's upcoming in June. So by now the shortlist for the interviews must be out and we're going to decode how to go about this prep because this will be the first time for a number of students appearing for a personal interview for admissions in different colleges. So let's start number one with the basics of what we need to know about this interview process. Number one, this will take place from the first week of June for the different colleges. For example, SLS Pune, SLS Nagpur, SLS Noida, and so on. The dates for scheduling your interview dates will be from 25th of May onwards. So that's when you can log into the website and schedule your date of the interview. Number two, it's an online interview. So it's completely virtually. There's no need to fly down to the respective city of the symbiosis college you're interviewing for. You can do it comfortably at the ease of your home. Number three, this interview will last typically from 8 to 10 minutes. So there is some time that you get to speak to your interviewers and show your potential as a good law student and a candidate for their respective colleges. Now, the weighted down marks of this interview is 30 out of 100. There are 70 marks coming from the SLAT exam you undertook, as well as the written assessment at the end of the exam. So this interview process, whatever your score is out of 100, will be weighed down to account for 30% of your final score. And the final score will lead to a rank list that determines who gets into the college, into whichever program you've applied for. For example, BALLB or BBLLB for different respective symbiosis colleges. Now let's get the basics, like we discussed, of this interview right. What all do we have to do or keep in mind while giving the interview? So number one would be something that you can control even before you sit for the interview, because impressions matter. This is the interview where you'll be judged, where your fate of the college that you really want to get into will be decided. So a few things that you can control from before are things that you should get it right. Number one would be ensuring you have a stable internet connections during the 8 to 10 minutes of your interview round. So log in a little early. If your interview is at, say, 10 a.m., don't log in at 9:55 or 10 on the dot. Ideally log in 15 to 20 minutes before to see if the internet bandwidth is strong, it's steady, and have a few backups ready, right? For example, at your home, besides your Wi-Fi, maybe keep the hotspot of your phone on so that in case there's any disruption vis-a-vis your Wi-Fi, you can switch to your hotspot, right? Ensuring you have a stable and smooth internet will just result in a stress-free interview on your part and will help you take control of the interview process. Number two would be having a good and a decent background while you're sitting for a virtual interview. Now, this is a step many overlook. And even though I argue it's not very important as the content of your interview itself, it is definitely something that works in your favor. The idea being to minimize as many distractions as possible. You don't want your interviewer to, be looking what's going on behind you or what's written on the wall behind you. Instead, paying all their attention on you. So you can do this very easily by ensuring that you're sitting in front of a solid colored wall, say like a white colored wall or a yellow colored wall, whatever is present at your house. Just setting up a table in front of it and sitting with the wall against your back. This will help minimize any distractions. Something you can do to even implement this further would be requesting people at your home not to interrupt you during this interview process so that it goes as a smooth sailing round for you. Number three, your appearances do matter. I would highly recommend dress formally and smartly. Get a shave, tie your hair down, sit in a formal suit or any other formal clothing of your preference for your interview. This will ensure and make the interviewers believe that you are a serious student who is extremely excited to get into this college. These are small basic pointers that you can control even before you sit for your interview. So next on number two, we'll discuss how to prep for this interview. And number three would be final pointers or tips that I can share with you to ensure you have a good interview round. So there are three things I think you need to prepare broadly. Number 1 would be the basic legal knowledge. Number 2 would be basic or ongoing current affairs. And number 3 would be competency questions and questions based on your CV. So let's break all of these 3 categories down and see what they entail. Number 1, basic legal knowledge. So this, don't worry, you don't have to go beyond whatever you've done for your CLAT and SLAT prep. It is basically the same thing. It would be helpful for you to brush over the concepts you learned during your law test prep. So say, for example, basics of constitutional law, contracts law, such as what is performance. Basic contracts and constitutional law would be very helpful. For example, what exactly is performance? What is required for the same? Who can give consent to be party of a contract? Can minors enter into contract? Stuff like this, along with constitutional law prep. Say how many articles are there in the Constitution of India? What are the articles that talk about freedoms and rights guaranteed by the Constitution? Which article talks about the directive state policies? These would be very helpful for you to know and brush over. Finally, some aspects of family law and criminal law would not hurt to just gloss over and be confident in your knowledge of the same. A few of these questions can be asked. Now understand, this is not a test of your legal knowledge, but rather it's to see your interest in law and how much you actually prepared for the SLAT test. And this is the only reason they try and gauge these questions. So it'll be a good idea to prepare them beforehand and be ready with them. Number 2 would be the basic current affairs. I would say read up on the recent happenings in and around India over the last few weeks and even a few months. For example, the upcoming and ongoing elections. Number 2 would be, say, the Ukraine war. Number 3 would be something such as the Israel-Palestine crisis. Just having a decent idea about these general topics and other current affair topics would be helpful to engage in conversation with the interviewers. They could ask you something basic as, oh, have you read anything interesting lately? Or what news piece interests you, right? So these are a few conversation topics that you could be well aware of and speak confidently during your interview. Number 3 on the prep list or the roster would be competency questions and CV-based questions. Now, I would argue that this is the main crux or the most important part of your interview prep. What type of questions do these involve? Some basic introductory questions. For example, tell us about yourself. Why do you want to study law? Tell us a little bit about your family background. Why do you want to be a lawyer? What do you see yourself doing 5 years from now with a law degree from Symbiosis? Or something even more competency related, such as what are the important skills for a lawyer to have? What are the important skills for a law student to have? Would be answers that you should be well prepared of, as well as questions from your CV itself. So whatever you've put down in your CV in terms of whatever you did in high school, for example, perhaps you interned at an NGO or helped out at an NGO. Perhaps you did Model UN conferences, you did debates, you did some writing competition, you were part of some societies, you were part of the school parliamentary body, whatever it may be. It'd be extremely helpful to again gloss over what exactly your responsibilities were in these roles, as well as what was the outcome. Everything you written in your CV, you should know what you did there and be able to speak at length about the same. So how do you prepare for these questions? Very simply, you can just jot down all of these kinds of questions that come to your head. You can even refer to some basic competency question guides that are available all over the internet and prepare answers for the same. When you prepare these answers and read it out a couple of times, it'll help you be prepared and motivated, as well as feel confident while answering them. So understand that they're trying to get these questions to understand what your background is, where you're coming from, and to see if you're a good fit for the particular college or not. So it'd be great to gloss over these few basic things. Now coming to the final part of this video, how do you prepare and a few pointers to keep in mind while going about it. So number 1, as I mentioned earlier, prepare your answers. This is the most important and fundamental part of your preparation guide, right? So when you've done or gone through the basics of, say, legal knowledge, the basics of current affairs, and the basics of competency questions, make a list of questions on a Word doc or on a pen and paper and write your answers down. This will be extremely instrumental in ensuring you're confident and you know what to speak instead of, say, stuttering or thinking for a while. Number 2 would be not have extremely long answers. Make it crisp answers that pack a punch, right? Understand that these interviewers will probably take, 50 to 60 interviews a day. If you want to stand out, you can't go over and over on the same question. As many questions you let them ask you, that's how well they get to know you. So I would say keep your answers to, say, 40 to 55 seconds. Make it very crisp and concise. Pack in all the relevant information. Don't give repetitive sentences again and again. Instead, try and convey as much information as you can without confusing the interviewers, of course, in those 40 to 50 seconds. Number 2 would be having mock interviews. So prepare for these interviews, right? You could ask anyone, from your parents, from other friends who are giving this exam, from just friends generally in school, to take these interviews for you, to your elder brothers, anyone, elder brothers, sisters, siblings, anyone could ask you these basic questions. If they have experience with such interviews, they could obviously give you feedback as well. Otherwise, you can always give yourself feedback and be conscious of what answers you're giving and whether they sound good or not. After that would be practicing before a mirror. That's a very good idea to gain confidence in your answers, right? You can see how you're reacting, how you're emoting when you're answering, and that will only bolster your confidence and just buttress your prep. A final few pointers. Number 1 would be not to mug up your answers, right? You don't want to seem robotic or just spewing out answers that you had learned like it's a history exam. You don't want that. You want to appear natural, as if you're actually thinking about the questions and, answering them. Being prepared is good. That's what they want. But they also don't want someone who is just verbatim spewing answers written on a sheet. So try and not mug up answers. Read them a couple of times. When you say it, keep a few pointers, jotted down if you need them be. Otherwise, try and be as natural and appear as confident as you can. Understand that confidence is key. They want students who will balance well with the curriculum at a law school. That's all they're looking for. And that you can do easily by showing confidence in your preparation and in your answers. Something else, and I think the final tip I will leave you with is be genuine. These interviewers know when somebody is lying, right? They can sift through answers very easily. Especially when you talk about facts or say legal answers. Don't make stuff up, right? Be upfront. It's completely okay to say that, oh, this is not something I'm very well versed with. Or this is something I just don't know the answer of, right? It's completely okay to not know. But please do not try and make stuff up, try and lie, because that's something they can easily catch on to and it won't be helpful for your interview process. Finally, just be yourself. Just trust the process, trust the prep you've done, and let your brain go on this autopilot route when you're giving the interview. Be confident, keep a glass of water nearby if handy. You can take a few sips before answering, you can take small pauses before answering. That's completely okay. Just try and, hold yourself together in those 8 to 10 minutes. That's all. And I'm sure you'll have a good interview. All the best. I'll see you guys soon.